This is a Monty moment. I'm Johnny Montalbano. Well, it's time for another week of college football picks and predictions. It's already week 3 in the college football season. And, you look back real quick at week number 2, a lot that came out of it. You had number 1 Alabama barely getting past Texas, took a late field goal late. Yes, maybe a controversial call there on that potential safety of Bryce Young from Texas. But you know what? The bottom line is you just can't give a Nick Saban and Alabama team second, third, fourth chances. And Texas did. But give them credit, though. They played them really, really hard. They were 20.5-point dog. And Alabama was going to be right up there the entire season. They almost pulled it out. So a moral victory and a great effort there by the Longhorns, but Alabama just barely survives. Also, speaking of well, that was a near upset, but speaking of upsets, we sure had them last week. You had number 6 Texas A&M upset by Appalachian State at home. Great job by App State, which almost got past North Carolina to start the year. So they are, they're going to be that kind of team this year. And unfortunately, my Notre Dame Fighting Irish just didn't put up much of a fight against Marshall, and that was just an embarrassing effort all the way around. And Notre Dame now without their starting quarterback for the rest of the season. So right now, all of a sudden, Notre Dame's gone from the discussion of being the last team in the college football playoff to now just running out the string. Maybe if they could win out, get a New Year's Six bowl game. But after that kind of effort against Marshall, and I think the final score was very misleading. It wasn't even that close. Give Marshall credit. The Sun Belt had a great week last week with wins. So you got to give Marshall though a ton of credit. They were paid a fortune to go over there and play, and they played Notre Dame really hard and pretty much dominated that game throughout. So credit to Marshall. Tough stretch here for Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman. I can't really put all the blame on him. If you look at Notre Dame just real quick, eventually they were going to have a full transition. And, maybe it starts earlier than later with this. He was thrown into a very, very tough situation in that bowl game last year. And coming out of it, maybe you make this change at quarterback, and we'll see if they bounce back against California Saturday. And also, news coming out Sunday morning about Scott Frost fired as Nebraska head coach. And unfortunately, after that 45-42 loss to Georgia Southern, that was just the last straw. No pun intended. But you look at that, I mean, if Scott Frost was still on the team in October, his buyout would have only been $7.5 million. I think that just goes to show you it's a $15 million buyout now, and I think that just goes to speak from the Cornhusker side how desperate they were to get him out. I mean, 16-31 as head coach since he got there in 2018, 5-22 in one-score games. They thought he was going to be the savior, and you wonder who it's going to be. And it's already been a tough year. That double-digit lead they had in the second half, the opening game in Dublin against Northwestern, not being able to hold that one off, and then losing to Georgia Southern at home can't happen. So he's out, and we'll see if Nebraska can bounce back, although they've got a tough matchup on Saturday as well. So that's what happened in week 2. You look at my picks from last week, kind of a rough 1 and 2. I had number 17 Pittsburgh getting 6.5 against Tennessee, and they lost by 7 in 34-27. I had Kentucky. I had Florida trying to build off that win against Utah. The opening game didn't happen as number 20 Kentucky beat them. But I did have BYU winning and they won a thriller in 2 overtimes against number 9 Baylor, 26-20. So 1 and 2 last week, 3 and 3 in terms of the college picks overall. And let's dive into week number 3. A lot of interesting matchups, not among the top teams, but among there's some storylines and some games that I really want to look at. And these 3 games that I'm picking this week, I'm picking these for a reason. I feel like Vegas is begging you to pick one way, and I'm not going to do that. There are some cool matchups, and that's also what we're going to do here as well. And again, I think these are lines that Vegas is begging you to take one way. I'm not going to fall for it. Game number 1, we're going to go down to LSU, an SEC showdown as Mississippi State takes on Brian Kelly and LSU at 6 p.m. Eastern. And Mississippi State, a 2-point favorite here in this SEC showdown. And this is the first test to see where they're going to stand in the SEC after rolling through its non-conference schedule. And I like what Mississippi State's done here with Leach. And their quarterback, Will Rogers, leads the nation in completions per game. He's tied for second in passing touchdowns, and he's third in average passing yards. And he's also been spreading the ball around as he's had a lot of variety in the offense. He's thrown touchdown passes to 6 different receivers in the early going, and it's been a tough first month for Brian Kelly down there in Baton Rouge. The game, their first game, where they lost late at the goal line. It's not going to get any easier, though. I feel like Mississippi State is for real. They've been a real thorn in the side in recent years for LSU, and Mike Leach, to me, has his team rolling on both sides of the ball. And again, Mississippi State, I think, should not be favored going on the road. Are they the better team in this spot, though? Yes. This, to me, though, is a line that's tempting to say take LSU +2. I'm not going to do it, though. The Bulldogs are, simply put, the Bulldogs are the better team. And you know what? This is a good test to go in an SEC showdown on the road. Go get it done. I'm taking the Mississippi State Bulldogs -2 in game number 1. Game number 2, we go all the way out west at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Number 11, Michigan State travels to Washington to take on the Huskies. And another interesting line here, as it's the Huskies who are favored by 3. And this matchup, another interesting one. It's a good test for Michigan State as they try and compete with the Ohio States of the world in the Big Ten. I think this is a critical game for them if they want to be in that discussion in the Big Ten with the likes of Ohio State. But this matchup also, you look at it from the Huskies side, they have a familiar pairing going up against the Spartans. You've got quarterback Michael Penix Jr. You've got head coach Kellen DeBoer, who's done a nice job bringing back that Washington team to what they were like a couple of years ago. Both of those guys did play Michigan State in 2019 when they were members of the Indiana Hoosiers. And Penix is 1-1 in his career against Michigan State. So really, it's hard to remember the last time that the Pac-12 was this relevant. But you know what? The last time they were, Washington was in the college football playoff. So, like I said, big game for Michigan State if we want to talk about them competing in the Big Ten with the likes of Ohio State. But I'm going to be looking for Penix in this game to challenge the Spartans secondary in this one. He's got a 70% completion percentage in the early going. And again, this is a line that I feel like they're begging you to take Michigan State +3. So, but I'm not going to do it. I think that you look at, like I said, with the Huskies, with Penix and DeBoer, I think that matchup with Penix going up against that Spartan secondary, I think it's gonna prevail. Huge matchup for Washington to put him back on the map here. And so, in kind of an upset, but not really an upset, I'm going to take the Washington Huskies -3 at home on Saturday night, game number 2. Game number 3, we go down to College Station in a battle of top 25 teams. Number 13, Miami, takes on number 24, Texas A&M. Saturday night prime time at 9 p.m. Eastern. And A&M coming off of one of their most humiliating losses in program history, and all of a sudden their season looks extremely different than it did a couple of years ago, falling from 6th ranked to 24th ranked after that loss to App State last week. And now you bring in a Miami Hurricanes team, a program that's feeling a surge of enthusiasm under first-year head coach Mario Cristobal, and this would be a massive statement for Cristobal and the Hurricanes in his first season there, and Jimbo Fisher trying to right the ship over there at A&M. And you look at this, I think this is going to be the biggest test for Hurricanes quarterback Tyler Van Dyke going into College Station, but he's thrown a touchdown in 11 straight games. I think this game's actually going to be a lot closer and kind of on the lower scoring side. You know, the 12th man down there in A&M, a very, very tough environment to play. But again, this is another line. You look at it, A&M's favored by 5. I think Miami is going to pull this upset, and I put upset in quotes, off. And I would not be surprised. I think they could win this game down there, given how they've started off the season and how much in shambles A&M is right now. They're getting them at the right time. Maybe you could look at A&M's side and say maybe they overlooked Appalachian State, and we're looking forward to this matchup. But I'll tell you what, I'm looking at this, and I like the way the Van Dykes played. I like the way the Cristobal has his team going so far, and A&M seems to be going on the other side of this. So I think Miami can pull this upset off. And even if they don't, you know what? I'm getting 5 points there in this matchup. So I'm going to give me the Hurricanes +5 in game number 3. So 3 interesting matchups in kind of an interesting look week number 3 in college football. I'm going to give me the Mississippi State Bulldogs laying 2 at LSU. Give me the Washington Huskies laying 3 at home over number 11 Michigan State, and give me number 13 Miami getting 5 in College Station against Texas A&M. And those are the 3 picks for week number 3 of college football. For more, like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameOnETB, and you can follow me on Twitter at Montalbano NY. This has been a Monty Moment. I'm Johnny Montalbano.